how has traveling changed your life?
My family lost their shit when I said I'm quitting my job to go travel by myself.
Were you ever scared?
That man started biting me on my shoulder.
I'm not scared to walk by myself at night time. I ended up in Albania, and the guy, the Airbnb host, people were telling me not to have drinks, not to drink, get drunk because I'm by myself or not. I did the freaking totally opposite.
I don't know what he said to her, but she followed him off the beach into some like sketchy area, and she came back and she had so much fear in her eyes. But he proposed in New York City.
We're going too fast. You need to break that down because we want to know what happened. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Cilia Li Show. It's your girl Cilia. This is a podcast where I'm all about helping women, but also men, if men are tuning in, to become the best version of yourself in all areas of your life. And if you've been following me, you know that self-love is a massive part of me. I'm so passionate about that topic because self-love is basically, I believe, the foundation of everything, you know. And so today I have a special guest, Briana. Welcome. And
you.
she is going to be talking about her self-love journey, but in I was going to say different way, but through traveling, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, you know what? Introduce yourself. I'm talking too much. Introduce yourself.
Well, hey, I'm an American. I don't know if you can tell by my accent. I don't think I have an accent personally, but
it's American accent.
It's, yeah,
to us, it's American accent.
And so a few years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, I quit my job. I've been traveling ever since, and I feel like at first it was just a journey of literally going to see places because you only get 2 weeks of vacation in the States usually.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
I heard about that.
Yeah, it's insane. So I was like, well, I don't want to wait until I'm 60 to travel, so I'll just go ahead and start doing it now. And then 6 months turned into a year, turned into 2 years, and now I'm just like, now I've moved to France.
So permanently?
Yeah. I'm still waiting on the visa confirmation, but it's in the works. I'm hoping it's done quickly and easily.
Where are you originally from in America?
So I was born in Louisiana,
okay,
and I moved around a lot as a kid, but then I usually say Texas because that's where I spent most of my adult years. Yeah, Houston, Texas.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I've been to Austin, Texas.
Yeah, Austin's great.
Yeah, I've been there twice.
Yeah.
But it was for but only in the city though, not really.
Yeah, I like the nature part.
Yeah. I've seen people uploading nature part. It's like it's beautiful. All the like waterfall and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I wish we had that here, but I mean we do have nice stuff, but all the nature like the forest that you have in America is just different.
Yeah, well, it's just so much bigger too.
So let's talk about your story. Okay, so you quit your job, to become a traveler. So you went solo, right?
Yes.
Solo traveling. Okay.
Yeah.
What was your first country? What's the first country you went to?
So I started in America.
Okay.
And that was, well, so America's massive, if you know.
Yeah.
Like everyone knows. But I started on a road trip. I got really inspired by van life. Like I was like, I'm going to live in my car. I'm going to be super minimalist and I don't need all of these things. Like I was just really focused on what do I need to be happy? And I'm like, I don't need this many things. I'm just going to give everything away. At first I thought about going somewhere to go into some kind of like monastery to go like super deep spiritually. But I started with a road trip and that was about 2 months and I was just living out of my SUV. And I'm so happy I started in an English-speaking country because I think I would have been way too overwhelmed. Okay,
so how has traveling changed your life? Because I can tell from following you on Instagram, it seems like there's major changes in your life.
Yeah.
And also, I've read your self-love EBook, which is really good. I actually thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yes?
Yeah,
I was
on the train and reading it.
Yeah.
But yeah, how has traveling changed your life?
So I feel like traveling in general is so nice because it opens your mind up to different cultures, different ways of life. And it's just like, you just get out of your own ways. I feel like it's so easy to just be like, I want to be like this. I just do this all the time. This is fine. But then you see someone else acting differently or you see people act a different way. And it just kind of opens you up to be more accepting of things different than you. But as far as like doing it solo, I think it's so empowering to go somewhere where you don't know anyone, you don't speak the language, and then you figure it out and you have a nice day and you're just like surviving somewhere out, like out in the world on your own, it's so empowering. And then you feel like you can just do so many other things in your life. Like once you go to, where did I go? Like if you go to Guatemala, barely speaking Spanish, like enough to order wine, because that's kind of like where my Spanish level was.
Survival skills.
Yeah, survival skills. And you can have a great day and make friends and just stay there for like a month. Then it's like, okay, well, that other thing I wanted to do wasn't really actually that hard. I can do that too.
I agree with about solo traveling really does empower you. It really builds a different type of confidence. Because I remember when the first time I ever went on solo trip was 2 years ago. Went to, I don't know if you know, Fuerteventura?
No, where's that?
It's an island, a Spanish island.
Okay.
Anyway, so I went there by myself for the very first time. I literally went to the beach. First of all, I chose a quiet beach because I just needed some quiet time. And it was just it was just so nice to be, first of all, do everything in your own time. You don't need to wait for nobody. And then just like walk around and not being conscious of, oh, are people thinking, what's she doing alone? Things like that. But although here in London, I can go to a restaurant by myself anyway, regardless. I don't have a problem eating by myself or can go to the cinema by myself. I'm not self-conscious like that. But I did used to think going on holiday by yourself, like, would you not want to create memory of someone else? But then when I did it by myself, like, oh my God, I freaking love it. And it just created that different type of confidence. Like I said, it was empowering. And so I want to talk about, I think that also leads to self-love. And you mentioned something about how, is it traveling, solo traveling, help you start your self-love journey? Is that?
So I feel like there were so many micro decisions that kind of led up to it in my life. So for me, I would say it started with yoga. Yoga is so nice because instead of just like doing the poses, it makes you mindful of how you're moving your body and being in touch with your body. And I felt like that was something that I had never considered before. I was just kind of this thing just going through life and had no sense of what was going on with my body. But it could only help so much because at the time when I started doing yoga, I was working this job where I felt like it wasn't a fit for my personality. So I studied engineering and I was working this corporate job and I was just like answering emails and text messages all day, but I was also drinking a lot because I was like part of the job. And so I spent a lot of time just like hungover and just not feeling good. And I still had so much anxiety. Like I would say, if I had to self-diagnose myself, like I was like a high-functioning depression type, and no one could really see it. And then during COVID, I saw all these videos about van life. And they look so happy. They just had a car, sometimes a dog, and they would just go out into the woods. And they had such a simple life, but they all seemed so happy. And I'm like, wow, I have this like high-paying job, this beautiful home. I'm in a city. I have all the things that I thought I wanted that I was working for in uni. And I still wasn't like feeling happy. And so taking that risk, and I say it's a risk because my family lost their shit when I said I'm quitting my job to go travel by myself. Completely lost their shit. They've gotten over it now. But so I didn't have like the family support. A lot of my friends were like, aren't you scared? Like, you should be so worried about this. Like, why would you go on your own? But something in me was like, no, you need to do this. You'll never have this time to do it again. And so just that first big step of listening to what I wanted to do instead of what others told me to do, I feel like was this domino effect of learning how to listen to what I wanted and making decisions based off of that. And I feel like that's a big part of self-love.
Yeah, 100%. Because I was going to say, when you love yourself, you get to know yourself. And it's being in tune with yourself, because it's like, I always say to people, you treat yourself like a baby. And obviously, when you have a baby, you'll be listening to their needs, what they want and things like that. So you're listening to them. And the same thing, like you're listening to yourself, with your body, your intuition. So yeah, that's part of self-love, yeah. So in your ebook, I'm just going to always go back to your self-love ebook. You mentioned about traveling, about safety, trusting intuition, because I know some people are actually worried about safety, especially I guess women. They're like, oh, how can I go alone, especially if I go to a country like, I don't know, countries that considered not safe. How can they? Why should they go? Like maybe they shouldn't go, things like that. And you said something about you trust your intuition. So has that strengthened your intuition from like this traveling?
Definitely, because it's, you know, when you get like that feeling to make a decision, and then when you do the thing, whatever the feeling told you to do, and then it works out amazing, it's just positive reinforcement to keep doing it. And I feel like that's what was happening, was I was just learning to be like, oh, okay, I actually know what's good for me on some inner level. And if I listen to it, then it'll just keep happening.
Were you ever scared? Like when you started traveling?
Of course. I mean, you're always going to have moments of like skinny, dark alleys always give me, like, my first thought is like, I don't know if I should walk down there, just from like it's in every scary movie or crime show, you know. Like I don't, like, there's also a level of common sense, because I remember I went on a trip with 3 women. 2 of them had never been out of the country before, and I actually didn't know them. I just met them at the airport. We just all knew one person, and then we just all met at the... Yeah, it was very bold. Very bold of us. We went to the Dominican Republic. And I remember one of them, we were like out at the beach, and sometimes when you're out at the beach, there'll be guys trying to sell you things, you know. And so some guy was trying to sell us things, and I don't know what he said to her, but she followed him off the beach into some like sketchy area, and she came back and she had so much fear in her eyes of like what the fuck just happened. And so basically he took her to some kind of like shopping mall in some sense, with just a bunch of people trying to like sell things to her, but I guess she didn't feel comfortable, like she couldn't leave the space. And then the other woman started giving away our address on the phone for like a restaurant reservation, and I heard her and I was like, why are you giving away our address to make a to make a restaurant reservation? She's like, I don't know, they asked. So there's like a level of like common sense. And I think like if you're not from, maybe if it's like you're from a big city, then it just feels more common sense to you than if you're just like from a small town and you don't really go anywhere.
So I agree with the intuition bit, because when I went last year, I went Albania by myself, and I don't know about in America, but here Albanians are known for like being like gangsters, human traffickers, and things like that, right? They have kind of that kind of reputation here. So anyway, so when I told my friends, I'm going to Albania by myself, they was like, Albania? Why Albania? And then someone was like, you better be careful, you're going by yourself. And I was saying to them, first of all, I don't need to hear it. I don't need you to instill your fear in me. And second of all, I know how to handle myself. And like you said, common sense. And I just trust my intuition. And even in London, touch wood, like when I go to areas like that's considered more dangerous, the rough areas, I'm not scared to walk by myself at nighttime, like on the roads. Well, it might be a bit woo for some people, but I just believe that I'm protected by my spirit, my angel.
Yeah, that's so helpful.
Yeah, guardian angels, And so anyway, and also because I'm not vibrating in that fear frequency, I don't believe I will attract it and attract anything bad, right? And anyway, and because also if you don't look like a victim, people are not going to come bother you. That's how I see things. That's what I believe anyway. Yeah. So that's why when I went to Albania, I wasn't scared. And if anything, when I went out to Albania, I did this thing. I always say, this is something I do. I say, angel, spirit guides, protect me, and guide me. I said that, and then the whole trip was just pleasant.
Yeah.
And again, I've trusted into my intuition. Obviously, if I see someone, I feel a bit shady, and my body's not feeling right, then obviously I'm not gonna talk to them or follow them, whatever, and things like that. But I ended up in Albania, so I stayed in an Airbnb, and the guy, the Airbnb host, so basically his family owned like a block of flats, and each floor is converted into your own room, kitchenette, and all of that stuff. And the family lived on the bottom floor, so he can hear. So that's why I used to see him every single day. But anyway, I ended up making friends with him. And he was just showing me around Albania, the area that he was in. And and got free boat rides and stuff like that.
Nice.
So in fact, if anything, I feel like my angels, my spirit guides, sent him to me as my a protector, or whatever,
Yeah,
bodyguard. Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Because
yeah.
he was literally, when we went to clubs, we went out. People were telling me not to have drinks, not to drink, get drunk because I'm by myself, whatnot. I did the freaking totally opposite. I got drunk every single day, and but he was there. He actually protected me from other guys when he was in the club. When guys wanted to come talk to me, he told them to fuck off.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So and he was very respectful. Like there were times when I'm so drunk, he could have taken advantage of me, but he wasn't. He was very respectful because when I'm drunk, I'm not like out of my head. I still know what's going on, but he was very like yeah, respectful and looking after me. So what I'm trying to say is I'm not saying girls, like, you know, find yourself or like someone who looks like they can protect you but and do all madness. But I'm saying is I trusted my intuition. So when I read that part in your self-love book, I was like, yes, that's how I feel as well. I feel you.
Yeah.
Trusting intuition, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how I got to all of that.
Yeah. No, I love that part about like not walking and giving off the fear energy because I feel like that's also so important. Like if you're just worrying that something's going to happen to you, then it's probably going to happen to you because you just keep worrying about it and attracting it. But whenever you met the Airbnb host, did you like, it's hard to describe the feeling of being able to trust someone when you're solo traveling. It's either like you can or you can't. I feel like it's very
I think
it's very like you just know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think because I trust my intuition and I also trust energy. I believe in energy. So if I get a good vibe from that person, then yeah, I tend to now we have some sort of trust. But obviously, I'm not saying like fully trust. Still have some sort of discernment.
Yeah.
But yeah. So when I met him, I just felt good vibe from him instantly, and also because might not mean anything for some people, but the fact that he was living there with his parents. I met his parents there. Like his parents are old, like 60 years old. You know, running small family business. So I get the sort of vibe. They were just like good people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so happy that the times that I've trusted strangers, it's worked out. I don't know if there's no, there's a couple times where I probably trusted people a bit too much, but nothing too drastic, you know, happened from it.
So traveling, go back to traveling itself. I read that it builds your confidence a lot. How were you before?
So
Talk about the whole journey.
So you know how you said like you have no problem going out to eat by yourself, doing things on your own? I used to not be able to do any of that. I couldn't even go for a walk by myself because in Houston, Texas, like everyone has cars. Like you just go from your house to your car to your job to your car to the restaurant.
It's because you actually can't walk, or
it's way too hot, and then everything's so spread out.
Right.
So it's like it would take you way too long to do it, and then public transport isn't really a thing. Like they have something set up for people who go to work, but it's not just to go to the store or anything. So everyone has a car. But I used to live down the street from Chipotle. I don't know if you have Chipotle here. It's like a cheap Mexican restaurant.
Oh yeah, we do actually. Yeah,
Okay. And so it was 5 blocks away from me because I lived in Midtown, and it didn't make sense to drive my car there because it was so close. So I told myself I'm gonna walk. Every time I walked, I just felt like everyone was looking at me and telling me, or not telling me, see, in my head, they were telling me, but they were judging me like, oh, she can't afford a car. Oh, she has no friends with a car. Why is she on the street by herself? Like, I just kind of felt like a little bit homeless.
Yeah, we
in a
create
way,
stories in our own.
just because I was walking down the street to get food. And so I had to normalize doing a lot of things on my own. One of them was walking. One of them was just even going out to anything in public on my own, going out to eat on my own. And so there were a lot of like micro steps, I would say, that built up to me actually being able to leave the country on my own. Yeah.
How did you get to that stage?
A lot of it was just being fed up with my job and also seeing other people do it. So I talked about expanders at the beginning. So I had this friend in high school in Louisiana, and she had never been to the beach in her life. And she just wanted to go to the beach. Like she just felt like she wanted to go to the beach. So she quit her job, packed up all her stuff, and moved to Florida and knew nobody there. And she's still in Florida all these years later, has friends, like she just created a whole new life. And so seeing someone leave everything they know and go somewhere just because they felt like it, I like opened my mind to like, oh, if she can do it, then why can't I do it? You know? And then I had another friend who actually I met in Houston, and she's American, and she just kind of moved around a bit for 2 years. She also did a bit of van life, and she always made friends everywhere she went. She just started a new life everywhere she went, and she felt it looked like she was thriving. I was like, oh, you make it look so easy. I want to do that too. So it was like, okay, so what are the things to get comfortable being alone by myself, to be okay with the thoughts going on in my head when I have no one to talk to or nothing to distract me. And then also it's like, okay, I actually feel like I'm capable of doing it because I see someone else do it. So now it's just like the logistics of figuring out how to get there, what to do when I'm there, like the planning part of everything.
Just a quick one. I want to ask you a big favor. Can you please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already done so? Follow me on Spotify or whatever platform you're listening on, because it would help me grow my channel, help me reach more people. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so, so much. All right, let's get back to the episode. How many years have you been traveling?
Since 3 Marches ago, which is really weird to count.
About 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
So 3 years, okay. So all these 3 years, so how have you seen yourself evolve? Like, what have you learned? So if someone asks you, what lessons have you learned? Can you share with people?
I would say one of the biggest one is to just not wait for other people to do the things that you want to do, because other people have their own timeline of what they're going to do in their life. And if you're just constantly waiting for someone else to do what you want to do, who knows what you're holding yourself back from? Because I've met so many amazing people, like just traveling, that I felt was kind of like another version of me, but in another part of the world, which is so interesting to come across, you know? Or I've just had such beautiful experiences that I would have never had if I had waited for someone to come with me, because like I said, people only have 2 weeks. So there were times when I had friends come and meet me places, and that was nice because you kind of like have your group, like your comfort zone when you go somewhere, so you just kind of stay within. But when you're by yourself, then you're forced to interact with people. And I feel like it forces you to realize like, okay, what do I actually like to do? Because I can do whatever I want when I'm here. And I need something to talk about when people talk to me, because it's like before it's like, oh, you just talk about work. You just talk about what you're watching on TV. Like,
What have you learned about yourself?
you know, I learned that I feel my purpose for why I'm here is to help other people. And before, I didn't really felt like I had a purpose. I kind of felt like I was just here and just going through the things, like, you know, you just make money, get married, have kids, enjoy your time, and go. But I feel like I have more of an understanding of why I'm here, and it makes me more excited to be here, because there was a lot of times where I just didn't want to be here like anymore. So it's so interesting to see like the relationship I'm in now, because the last relationship I was in, it happened like a few months or so. Maybe, it's hard because COVID just is like in my brain a block. So I can't tell you exactly where the timeline is around COVID. But my last relationship was with this man who was just very toxic, and just the way he talked to me just made me feel very small, and like I was always wrong and I could never do anything right. And it got to a point where I was just like hysterically crying. I couldn't control my emotions. And he like cornered me on my balcony of my flat. And I had the thought like I should just jump. Like that was like my first thought. And the only reason I didn't do it was because I wasn't high enough off the street. So then I was like, well, then I'll just go to the hospital. And I was like, no one wants to go to the hospital with like a broken leg or anything. But that it took me to get to that level to be like, I can't take this anymore. And sometimes for some reason it takes me to a breaking point to realize I can't take this anymore. And I feel like with travel, it's forced me to be like, okay, what do I actually want? And then to act on those things that I want. And I don't have to get to that breaking point.
And so would you say because traveling forces you to, because you're by yourself, forces you to listen to yourself, forces you to also having to put yourself out there to talk, well, I guess talk to people, know what you want, and that's how you sort of developed your self-love as well. Enhance your self-love.
I think so, yes, that, but also it's like when you, so before I used to just kind of also like in my head talk down to myself and just wasn't really happy. But then when I started treating myself with kindness, I just, I was like glowing. It was like people could sense it, you know? And it's like I wanted more of that feeling. So it was so easy to keep doing it once I realized what it could feel like to treat myself with kindness instead of with hate.
What triggered you to start? Like, that's it. You know what? I need to treat myself more with kindness. What triggered it?
I think, oh, actually, I remember. So there is a lot of times I tried, but then I'd kind of go back into my old ways. Like you go back into your old ways. But I feel like a real turning point for me was during COVID. I was working from home, and my roommate also worked from home doing the same job. And our jobs are very stressful during this time. And I remember I was just like so anxious, and I didn't know what to do about it. And I ended up having a panic attack like mid-work day. And I've had one before, and I've almost had a few panic attacks before, but because he saw me have one, and like I was basically witnessed in a state where I was so vulnerable and uncomfortable, and you could really see like something has to be wrong with mentally for her to get to this state. Like I was exposed in a way, I guess you could say. I was like, I need to change something.
Talk about your love life. So, all this traveling, have you ever had romance during? I mean, you have, but I want to tell us about it.
Yeah, so I definitely was trying to look for love when I started traveling. I got this journal, and the first few pages, I was like, write what I want, you know. And of course, I wrote like I wanted to find a partner, and I was like writing down all these qualities that I wanted. And so I was definitely going into it looking for it, and also I was just really open to it because I just enjoy having sex. So I'm like, I'm not gonna just not have. I'm not gonna be celibate during this, you know.
Yeah.
So I came across a lot of people. They were all men. I came across a lot of men, a lot of older men, surprisingly, because I was trying. The idea of a sugar daddy sounds so intriguing, right? You know, like someone just like buys you things, but just happens to be older. So I had a few things with that, but nothing really ever stuck. Like I remember, I actually went on a date. I went on 3 dates in London, actually, which is interesting. It's probably because it's one of the few English-speaking places, but I had a lot more success in London as compared to other places where I didn't speak the language, because at that point you're kind of just like, unless if you're in a foreign place, the only way you can date someone there is if they happen to speak English or you're dating another traveler. And then it's like, okay, I came all this way to date an American.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so there wasn't really anything that stuck until I met Will, which is my husband now. Yeah.
Okay. We're going too fast. You need to break that down because we want to know what happened. So you met all these. Okay, so you obviously had short romances there and there, but you just knew they weren't the one. That's why you never stuck. Right?
No.
And then when did you meet Will? How? And where is he from?
So he's Parisian. So we live in Paris together. And I was just out. And actually, right before I met him, I was actually dating another Frenchman. So when I...
Were you in France already?
No, I went there. I went to France.
Okay.
And so also something that's really interesting about solo traveling, just like that I'm thinking of, is you know when a place loves you or hates you or is kind of neutral. And I felt like Paris and France was just like bringing me in. There's something about it where things just go so easy for me when I'm there that I don't necessarily experience everywhere else. Like things can go smooth, but some places it's just like everything, it just lines out perfectly and it feels like a place. And so Paris is that for me. So I went to Paris last year and I didn't really have a reason to be there. I was just kind of like, oh, I need somewhere to go for a few months. I'll go to Paris. And I was staying with a friend of a friend, and her mother actually invited me out to a club. And I went out and I meet this man, And he's like so into me. We hit it off immediately. I was dating him for like a month. And then I just got the ick at some point. You know, when you're just like, you have all these red flags that pile up and you're finally like, okay, I need to like do something about this. So I got the ick. And I got it at like right before we had a weekend apart, because I bought tickets to go to this festival, Lollapalooza, in Paris. And so I go to the festival. I'm like, I'm going to break up with this man. I'm just going to be single. Like, I just need like some time to enjoy Paris. And I'm out at this festival having a good time. And I remember being on the dance floor thinking, like, I don't know why I've never dated a DJ, because I love music. Like, I love going out. I love partying. I love festivals. And I'm like, I don't know why this has never been like a job that I've dated. And then while I was out at the festival, a friend of a friend who I hadn't met before but lived in Paris invited me out to go to a club to just like come meet her friends, which was so nice. I go. We never really hang out because it's a huge club and everyone's just on something and it's just so hard to stay together, you know? So I'm just by myself dancing. And I see Will, my husband, in the crowd, super cute, just like having a good time dancing. It was for Bailey funk music. I don't know if you know Bailey funk. It's like Afro-Brazilian dance music. Right. So it's like a cool vibe, you know? And then I remember seeing this other guy also in the crowd. I saw them at the same time. They were both beautiful. Yeah. And I was like, who's going to talk to me? And the other guy actually talked to me first, but he was, I don't know what he was on or if he was just really drunk, but there was something in his eyes to where it was like, we cannot have a coherent conversation. And then also like his accent was so thick, I just could not tell what he was saying to me. Like I was like, I don't know what language you're speaking right now. And and I bring this up because I always remember this the night I met Will, because at some point that man started biting me on my shoulder. Like we didn't exchange any words. We just like, there was some kind of shouting going back and forth. He introduces me to his friends and then he just starts biting me on my shoulder. And then I kind of like move away.
What, in a sexual way or just?
What, it wasn't in an aggressive way. Okay. I guess it was in a sexual way. In my way, it was like in a what the fuck way, you know? Okay. Because I'm just like, you're a stranger. Yeah. You've understood nothing I've said. Why are you biting me? And then he does it again. And so then I run away. And then Will comes up to me and is trying to buy me a drink. And I was like, no. And so, but I was like, I'll wait here if you want to come back and we can like chat when you come back. And he actually lets me try his drink. And it was actually good. But then he was like, well, you didn't want one, so like too bad for you or something. Yeah. But then he was like, oh, I'm kidding. You can share mine. Yeah. I'm like the kindest guy you'll ever meet. He was just like so sweet, you know? And we were just talking, but then the music was so loud. So at some point it was like, he mentioned, do you want to go somewhere quieter so we can talk? And I was like, okay. And so I go, and where I was living at the time was on the edge of Paris, and there was no way to get home. And I didn't fully think about that at the time. I was just like, I'll find a way home, you know, at the end. And
I do that sometimes.
Yeah, and it worked out. So he was like, oh, do you want to come back to my place? I was like, okay, I don't have a place to stay. So I went back to his place, and he was like, do you smoke weed? I was like, thank God, yes, because I couldn't find weed since I've been there. I've just been smoking my pen, which is a completely different type of high. And so we spent the night together, but like nothing happened because I was still technically like dating the other Frenchman, and I would have felt so bad. Like I would have felt like a cheater, even though I'd already broken things off, but I was like, I'm not going to do anything about this. And the next day we sober up, and he was so interesting. Like, you know, sometimes like you spend a night with someone and then the next day you sober up and you're like, like, let's just forget about that and move on. He was great. It felt like we'd known each other for like a really long time in some way, yeah. And then just like the more time we spent together, it just kept building on and on. So it was like I left, broke up with the other Frenchman, went back to his place for a date, and I stayed for like 3 days. And then I left, and then I went back for like 2 weeks, and then he was like, you should just stay here all the time. And I'm like, you're right.
So you were, these are how you're in a relationship now?
Yeah.
And then I see you traveling. Were you traveling with him?
Since I met him, yeah.
You went traveling together?
Yeah.
Ah.
There was a point where I left for maybe 3 weeks without him because I couldn't stay in France anymore as an American. So I went to Canada to visit like another friend I met traveling. And then Will came to meet me in New York. And then we basically have been inseparable ever since. We either traveled together or stay in Paris together.
Okay, and so how did you end up marrying? Did he propose to you? Like, what happened?
Yeah, so he proposed in New York City. And I feel like it was a lot of basically like figuring out how do we stay together because it was so hard because we're from two different countries, you know? So it was like, okay, like where do we live? How do we make it work? And at first it was like, we'd already said that I love yous and all these things, but at first it was like, well, I need to learn French. Why don't I just get a student visa? You know, like that would be like the easiest for me to come to France. And then they passed some law where basically anyone who goes to study in France, if you don't leave, you have to pay six or 7,000 euros just to stay in the country. And I was like, I'm not paying the government this much money just to stay in a country. And then so we thought about doing like a civil partnership, which is really interesting, like that even exists. I don't know if you have that here in England or not, but in the end, it was just like, well, marriage makes the most sense. Like it was basically like just a decision making because both of us originally we talked about it like we never saw ourselves getting married as individuals because it's kind of like to me it's just like a government contract.
Okay.
Like you don't need to prove your love by marriage. Yeah, so
Because this is basically, I want to say this story basically proves that you can find love anywhere.
yeah.
And if you're struggling to find love in your own country, go traveling, go to another country and find love.
Yeah, you just need someone who speaks your language. So that's really what you need.
Yeah, but to be honest, I know some people where their parents when their parents met, they didn't speak each other's language.
Like at all?
Like for example, like American man met a Korean woman, and the Korean woman only spoke Korean, spoke very very little English, but somehow.
You know, I say that actually. The first Frenchman actually didn't speak much English.
Yeah.
And we made it work for a month.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess it's the how you.
It's the energy. Like, does
Yeah.
it work? Do both people want to make it work?
What else? So tell us the highlights of solo traveling. Like Briana from the beginning to now, what has changed? Obviously, apart from being married, obviously. But
Yeah. I feel like there's so much confidence now that I didn't have before. And it's also about trusting yourself if you can go and do the thing that you want to do. Because if you're here living life, why aren't you doing what you want to do? Like, why are you just doing what other people tell you to do the entire time? And for me, it was like, I want to go see these other cultures. I want to go drink French wine in France. Like, it was just like, these are little things that I want to do. But it's like, okay, the things that I want to do in this life are worthy of me being able to do them. So I'm going to go do them. And I feel like everyone should feel that way about anything that they want to do. It could even be just like switching from one job to another career path because that's what you're so excited about, as opposed to just doing the thing that you feel like you need to do because you've done it for so long.
If someone's to start now, what tips would you give them to start?
So I would definitely say, like, be comfortable being alone because even though you meet people as you travel, you're still going to spend so much time by yourself. And if you're not okay with the thoughts that you have inside of your head, then it's just not going to be a pleasant experience wherever you go in the world. You know, something that I think really helped me with this one is meditation. And I feel like a lot of people feel intimidated by meditation because they think of like just sitting quiet and not moving and not thinking. But for me, like the benefit of it was I started to realize that the thoughts that were coming in and out of my head were just thoughts. And if I chose to not think of them, they would just go away. Or if I had some kind of negative thought, I could decide to change it to something more positive and then just move on from there. And I could choose to believe which thoughts I wanted to. And it took a long time to actually get into a meditation practice, actually. I think it's really hard to not be distracted, because I feel like it's so easy to be like watching TV or listening to music or a podcast. Like, how often are you just sitting in silence with nothing to do? And so for me, starting out, I always listen to guided meditations. They're so helpful because it's basically like you're still listening to something, but you can still like get into a meditative state. And then also, then at some point it'll become easier. Then you could just do music, or then you could just do nothing.
In your self-love book, you said something about how when you started loving yourself more, you start attracting more love. Can you talk about, obviously, because self-love is a journey, and we always learn more ways of loving ourselves more. So the type of men that you attracted compared to obviously Will, how different were they? Like,
Oh my
what did
goodness.
you learn?
So
Because obviously you learned the ups and downs, right?
yeah. So I used to think I was just this hideous person, and it reflected in the men I would attract, because I swear I would only attract ugly men. And it made it worse, right? Because I'm like, so I thought, so it was more like just, I had some like, I always just thought I was bigger than I was. I had acne scarring. I felt like I needed makeup. Like, there are just all these things, right? That just picked at my confidence about how I looked. And then this ugly man comes and talks to me, and I'm like, why does he think he can talk to me? You know? But then I'm like, oh, I must look at his level for him to do that. So it was just like this cycle of like just confirming the things that weren't true. And then sorry, lots of thoughts are coming in because there were so many different levels. Because I used to get my nails done. I used to wear like full face makeup. I was just completely different like years ago, right? And it took a lot to overcome that. But I had to learn to accept how I look and be happy with how I look. And that took a long time. But one of the things that really helped with it actually was this thing. It's called mirror work. So you look in a mirror and you look yourself in the eye and you just say like, I am beautiful. Which seems so simple, but I could like not do it. Because how often are you actually looking yourself in the eye when you're in the mirror? Like me, I was looking at the things on my face or looking at something. I was using the mirror to reflect me, but I wasn't looking myself in the eye.
You know what's so funny though? This like mirror work thing. You think it's easy. Like, for example, me, like, I didn't understand when I told people about it. It was like, oh, it's cringing, things like that. I told my clients to do mirror work, like look yourself in a mirror and say kind stuff. She said she found it hard, and I was like, really? Because I don't have a problem saying things like this to myself, but some people actually find it really hard. And they said, because I said, why? Because I don't believe in it. Well, and they actually think, because they think they're ugly or whatnot, they're not worthy. And I said, you just have to keep saying it, and just have to. Yes, in the beginning it's hard. You won't believe in it, but you have to just program your subconscious mind, and it would work eventually.
Yeah, it makes such a difference. And so I felt how I was viewing myself once I started having the confidence. And also it was a lot about the clothes I was wearing too. Because I don't know if you do this when you go shopping, but I used to call a friend to see.
Opinion.
Yeah, and then I would buy it.
I never did that, but I know what you mean. But I used to would think, would people like it though? I never call people up, but I would think. And if I was with someone, I'd be like, what do you think? Is it nice?
Yeah.
But then deep down inside, like, oh, but I like it though. If I don't like it, like that. Yeah, I used to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a lot about also like going through my closet and like keeping wearing the things that I loved that I thought I looked good in. And so then I would just tell myself, you look good. And then people would compliment me like, you look good. And so I was telling myself like, I am beautiful. People would just start telling me I was beautiful when they weren't telling me those things before.
I believe that because also when I started believing that I am sexy, because if you follow me, you probably know that I love being sexy. I embrace my sensuality. And it's all started from, as soon as I love being sexy, like embracing my sexiness and believe I am sexy, I started getting men and women coming to me, you are so sexy. I'm like, I know, but thank you.
It's like they can sense what's going on.
You emit that energy.
Yeah, and there is, so we talked about intuition before, and I feel like something that really helped me with it was like reading self-help books. And there's this one book, In the Light by Shakti. can't remember the last name, but basically it was a book with meditations and journaling prompts and everything. And what it said in the book was that what you believe inside, like in your inner world, in your head, is what's reflected to you in your outside world.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's exactly what it is. It's like you feel sexy, like you actually feel it. And so other people are feeling that too.
Yeah.
Because you're admitting it.
Exactly. And also, just want to say on the sexiness is, it's not even about what I wear. It don't have to be showing a lot of skin. It's actually my presence. I believe that. And because people said to me, like, you have such a strong presence, the way you carry yourself and the way you are, my confidence, that makes me sexy. And because you believe, it's not even believing, you know you are, that confidence, whether it's being sexy or whether it's beautiful or whether it is, but as long as you know difference, believing and knowing, the power of knowing, you will emit that energy and then people will see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was you saying before about that? Oh, God. Oh, yeah, the tips. Was it the tips? Or?
It was about the ugly men approaching me.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was ugly.
How you change, things like that. Yeah. And so, okay, and then you learn, each time you're doing all this inner work, and obviously your self-love level enhanced. And so when you met Will, where were you at?
I don't know how to describe it, but it was basically, so the Frenchman I had before him was just obsessed with me.
Yeah.
The man before that I dated in India, I'm going to say date. I had a fling in India for like a couple weeks, also like obsessed with me. So it was like, I guess I was obsessed with myself in a way, because that's the energy that people were giving back to me. But yeah, it was so interesting to meet someone who I feel like was accepting of all of my quirks, because I feel like it took a long time for me to accept things about me. Like I felt like I was just kind of weird. Like sometimes I'll make like silly songs like throughout the day, and someone's like, be weird, or I just make weird noises. Just I don't even know why I'm doing it. It just comes out. But it's like he'll just literally just imitate me.
Oh, that's so
like,
nice, so cute.
Yeah, he's
that's
like not even phased.
To summarize what we spoke about, what would you say to the audience?
I would say that if you have a feeling in your heart to do something that might seem a little bit scary, I think you should still try to do it. But I think you need to do it with baby steps. I think like people try to do something so different, and that's why it seems so scary. But if you take little tiny steps towards the things that you want to do, then you're going to be able to do whatever you want in this life.
Yeah. I always say where there is discomfort is where growth lies.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. How can people find you, like follow your traveling stories?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram at Free the Bree, and this Bree with 2 E's. Or I have a Substack, which is like a blog of my travel stories and life lessons, just like shit that happens that's just way too long to put on Instagram. And that's also Free the Bree, like freethebree.substack.com.
Amazing. I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And as always, thank you so much for tuning in. Whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, whatever platform you're using, please give us a follow, subscribe, and 5-star rating. Like it. And if you like the story and you think someone should listen to this, like someone who wants to go on a solo traveling journey, send it to them. And if you may be looking for love, this story is inspirational because it inspires you to find love outside of your country. So anyway, I believe my husband is probably, I always say this, my husband's in America. I don't know why.
You think so?
I've always said this to my friends, and it could be New York. But anyway, thank you so much. See you in the next episode. Mwah.